So beyond tech, what other sectors do you see? Because from my vantage point, it looks like probably healthcare and defense will do well. But what is your opinion?
Before I come to healthcare and defense, I think the one sector which can do very well is the EMS space, electronics manufacturing space. Mind you, the government is pushing for it, and the government has been pushing for it since 2021. We are all aware that when COVID happened, China had a zero tolerance policy. They shut down their plants. Because of the zero tolerance policy in China, there was mayhem insofar as global supply chains were concerned. Because up until 2020, everything was being outsourced to China. All the supply chains were running deep into China. And when all of this problem started to happen, people realized that, look, they don't have enough inventory because the Chinese factories are shut down. And therefore started the concept of what is now popularly known as China Plus One. So, of course, China will remain a big partner, but you need to find additional partners beyond China. And citing and looking at this opportunity, sensing this opportunity, Mr. Modi started his policy of encouraging manufacturing in India by giving incentives. He called it the Production Linked Incentive Scheme, commonly known as PLI scheme. The government chose around 10 to 12 different sectors. The one sector which has been a poster child of success here has been electronics manufacturing. They were able to get in Apple. By the way, by next year, Apple will be manufacturing 25% of all its global mobile phones in India alone. Today, that number is about 17-18%. This has all happened in 4 to 5 years, by the way. They came in with their entire ecosystem. Similarly, other mobile brands also came in. The government is now pushing for life beyond mobile phones by manufacturing PCs and laptops into the country. In this budget, the government has given an incentive for servers. Because do remember, if artificial intelligence and cloud computing is the in thing, everything will reside on servers. You need massive data center capability. So the government is giving incentives for data centers. That again will help a lot of manufacturing of this particular hardware. So we are excited about this opportunity. Once again, I'm not at liberty to disclose companies and their, what we feel their future would look like. But yes, look around yourself. Electronics manufacturing is actually a big theme which has wind in its sails. Also because the government is backing it up.
So this is like a combination of manufacturing plus AI as a theme.
In certain segments, yes. Because if you talk about data centers, it is manufacturing on something which will be required if AI really is a big success.
Yeah.
You'll need massive computing capacity, therefore massive data centers, massive servers, and so on. The government is also giving incentives for semicon manufacturing, by the way. So I think this could be a very, very interesting piece. Semiconductor manufacturing.
We don't have the raw materials though, right? It comes from
so we would take the basic raw materials, of course, once again from our close friend China, but we would be at least capturing some part of the value chain. We can't capture the initial part of the value chain. Of course, you're absolutely right. Rare earth is something where India is not rich. Yeah. China has a lot of control over rare earth. So they do have the basic building blocks for semicon coming in from China.
So from a natural resource point of view, India actually has zero advantage, right? The only advantage we have is labor arbitrage. Is there any other asset that India has which could potentially make us richer? Because I see all the successful countries right now is primarily because of the natural resources that they had.
Absolutely. India doesn't have a lot of natural resources. So therefore that's a disadvantage. But long time back, again in one of the economics textbooks, I read this theory about what was known as the natural resources curse. If economies do get rich in natural resources, it actually takes away the incentive from them to be productive, to get hyperactive about innovation and so on. And this has happened to a lot of countries over the last 100 years. Just think about all the African nations, bloody rich in natural resources. Just think of all the South American nations. Look at Venezuela. It possibly has one of the richest oil resources. It's been a horrible country. I mean, forget about innovation happening there. As a country, it's been in disarray. Look at many of these countries like Peru or Argentina and so on. So Look, and on the other hand, look at Japan, a country which has zero natural resources. But possibly because they didn't have any backstop, they were paranoid about innovation, they were paranoid about hard work. And what they taught to their next generation was that, look, we have to fend for ourselves, we have no natural advantages.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do feel that, yes, not having a natural resource is a disadvantage, but history has also taught us that many of these nations have done very well, notwithstanding the fact that they weren't rich in natural resources. So yeah, I mean, we've reached so far. We've been the fastest growing economy in the world for the last 15, 20 years without natural resources. I think if we just keep executing with our heads down, I'm sure we can replicate the success of the last 10 years.
Okay, so you started off with technology companies, then you went into electronics manufacturing. What is the next sector?
I would say the consumer-facing sectors, by which I mean a lot of sectors, particularly consumer discretionary, could be the sector to watch out for. And I say this for a couple of reasons. Once again, I go back to that broad framework. India is an economy where 65% of its GDP is coming from consumption.
Yeah.
Till now, what we have solved for is the basic necessities, which we also call as consumer staples. Some people also call it as FMCG companies. Till now, we have solved for these things. But once again, the evolution of economies around the world has also taught us that when per capita income starts to grow, people become more and more discretionary in their spend. We start buying luxury watches. We start buying, the ladies start buying, jewelry beyond, what possibly could just be required for occasions. People start buying, filling up their...
Tanishq just launched Beyond.
Absolutely.
Use the word beyond.
Absolutely. People start filling up their wardrobes beyond what could just be an essential wear. So people start spending money on what is known as discretionary spend. So look, we will have to be conscious about the evolution of the Indian consumer as per capita income keeps increasing. And this evolution will be no different from what we have seen around the world.
But there are no companies which I can specifically point out saying that this is only for discretionary spending, right? Because I had the same thesis that luxury spending will go up because GDP per capita is increasing. The number of upper middle class Indians or the rising affluent class is skyrocketing. And I see, how my friends are spending money, right? Like on things that they'll probably use once or twice the whole year. But that's not going to stop because it's aspirational in nature. But how do I identify a company which only does that? There are no publicly listed companies.
You actually named one company just now, Titan. Titan is all about discretionary spend. Jewelry is a very, very discretionary category. And plus with their percentage of studded jewelry increasing and plain jewelry reducing, it will become even more discretionary in nature. So if you look around, there will be companies. A company like Trent is also a discretionary company.
Trent is for?
Trent is basically the chain which runs the West Side stores and the Zudio stores. It's basically an apparel company.
Yeah.
In a way, a company like Jubilant FoodWorks is discretionary. Look, you're not required to eat a pizza every day or every other week. But yes, if you do have the means, you can order a pizza, any time of the day, at office, at home. If your kids want to eat a pizza, you won't stop yourself from indulging in it. But you can do that only when you do have an income beyond a particular level. So yes, there are many examples of discretionary categories. By the way, cars and automobiles are a discretionary thing themselves. So we all are changing our cars every 5 years because, what we thought was great in 2020 may not be great in 2027, while the car can serve you for another 5 years, but you still want to upgrade to something. So that's another example of discretionary spend.
Automobiles have been one of the best performing sectors in the last 2 years. Do you think that will continue?
In the long run, we feel it should continue because let me give you a very interesting statistic. We talk about penetration of cars. In India, the penetration is just about 2%. It's 2.3 or 2.4.
Yeah.
Let's call it 2.5%, which means that for every 100 people, you only have 2.5 cars.
Yeah.
The same number for China is about 15-16%. The same number for Russia and Brazil is more than 20%. The same number for Europe is about more than 40%. The same number for US is 80%. So we're not reaching US in the next few decades for sure.
80% of people in the US have cars.
For every 100 people, 80 cars are there. So 80% of people have cars because, many homes will have 2 cars and 3 cars and so on. Even if you're commuting by metro, you still have a couple of cars in your garage. You may use it over the weekend or, going on a long drive or on a holiday. India is 2.5%. This is a category which is massively underpenetrated. But why is it underpenetrated? Because look at 2,500 per capita income. You don't expect people to straight away start buying cars. They will fill up their essential needs first, then they will take the next step of taking the kids out to enjoy a meal, enjoy a pizza, then maybe, buy them good clothes. Everybody aspires to buy a car, but it happens beyond a particular income level. But we are all going to reach there. I think people in the bigger cities have already reached there. As this growth leads to wealth effect percolating down to smaller towns and cities across the country, we will see cars in small towns, small villages, everywhere.
So market expansion is happening.
Absolutely.